Hi guys, today I want to bring you with me. I want to talk a little bit about IEW and the theme books and why there's so many moms intimidated by just using the theme books. I will explain to you how we are using all things fun and fascinating, how it's been working for us, and how I am just adjusting things in a way that it works for me since I work outside. I want to share all of that with you guys. I created a video as well on Instagram a while ago talking about all things fun and fascinating, and I was just starting with all things fun and fascinating. So now that I have a little bit more of experience and I've been working a little bit more with theme books from the IEW, I would like to share that with you. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I want to bring you with me to talk a little bit about the Institute for Excellence in Writing, better known as IEW. I have with me all things fun and fascinating. I have with me the teacher training, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about both of them because I have seen that a lot of moms are being a little bit intimidated by just give it a try to the theme books. Maybe because they might think that it will take long, it's going to be a little bit teacher intense because you don't have DVDs with the theme books. That's something that is different compared to the structure and style DVD program with IEW. And I think that is creating a little bit of intimidation when it comes to the theme books. So I have been using so far People and Places in Our Community with my kid, and now we are using All Things Fun and Fascinating. That is the book that we are using currently. And and I am going to say this as a disclaimer, I am not an expert. I just want to share with you how we've been using these two programs, specifically All Things Fun and Fascinating, which is the one that we are using currently, and how I've been using it with my kid and make it work with my kid, and it's been so easy. And I can tell you that it's not being so teacher intense as you might think, and as well I can tell you that it's not been taking me a long time with him, correct? Because I work outside, so I've been adjusting things in a way that it can work very well for us, and I just want to share that pretty much with you guys. Okay, so I have here All Things Fun and Fascinating, and I think this is the book that is getting a lot of moms quite intimidated by just give it a try to the theme books. If you're going to compare All Things Fun and Fascinating compared to People and Places in Our Community, which I think is a very gentle introduction to the program, to IEW, I think it has a little bit of a curve, of a learning curve when you are starting with IEW, because they have a different approach for writing, correct? It's very structured, but it's very helpful if you have a kid with learning disabilities or a kid with learning differences. I think this is a great program, okay? So I've been using these theme books with my kid. I start with People and Places in Our Community, which I think is a very gentle beginning for this program, and I think it's very helpful because if you're starting with the program, and like I said, I think it has a little bit of a learning curve because their method is quite different, correct, to your typical writing program. I think that starting with People and Places in Our Community is very helpful. And I don't think it's childish for your kid. My son is when we start with People and Places in Our Community, he was in 4th grade. So I think it was just perfect for him, correct? So I think the difference that I noticed between People and Places and All Things Fun and Fascinating is the fact that I saw that the guy from People and Places in Our Community was a little bit more specific for the teacher or parent, and it was just more specific with the instructions. I think had a little bit more of guidance compared to the guy with All Things Fun and Fascinating, and I would like to show you that in a second. And I think that was one of the first things that I noticed with the teacher guides compared with All Things Fun and Fascinating and People and Places in Our Community, correct? When I start with people and places in our community, I didn't purchase the teacher training. I thought that it was not necessary because I felt like the teacher guide from people and places in our community was so detailed on the instructions that I thought it was something that it was not a necessity, correct? I saw previously as well videos that where there was a mom explaining how to use the people and places in our community, and it was just so helpful to me. But once I have the book from All Things Fun and Fascinating, I decided to purchase the teacher training because I think it was going to be helpful, especially if your kid has learning differences. The teacher training gives you a little bit more of guidance when it comes to see how you can adjust to make it work with your kid. And I have that teacher training here. And if you want me to be honest, and sorry about the glare, but at the beginning I start obviously watching all the videos. I haven't even watched all of them, and I feel like it was helpful. It helps me understand a little bit better. I still every now and then grab a video and just start looking all over again, but I haven't decided to just resell the teacher training because I think it will be helpful. We are starting to go high hill levels of our writing program. We are planning to continue with IEW because I can see the difference, and as well because I know that it's working, correct? I sometimes grab the CDs and just give myself a refresh of what I need to be doing with him. I think is very important as well. I like the way that Andrew Padua explains everything. I think he's funny and I just enjoy watching the videos. And while I haven't watched them in a while because I haven't felt the necessity, I've been able to work with my kid in the program, I still have them in here because I know that at some point it's going to get a little bit more difficult and I am going to need the help, especially because I speak two languages. My first language is Spanish, and I know at some point I will be needing the guidance again from Andrew Padua here with the CDs, okay, and the program. So this teacher training that I have shown before here comes obviously with the CDs, and you can do the extreme, correct? Sorry, I have them backwards. You can do the extreme where you can just have use your computer and the internet, and you just have that is forever. You will get that. But I decided to have the CDs because my computer is not working very well. So these are the CDs, and this kind of looks like leather. Little binder here for the CDs, and it comes with this binder, very sturdy binder, really good material, okay, with information here. Sorry again about the glare from my ring light. With these dividers, these tabs that identify everything, and obviously the papers with the information to just give you that training, correct? So this is how it looks. I don't know if you can see that because of the glare. I will be giving you eventually a flip through of the teacher training so you guys have a better idea. But this is how I've been using the teacher training. As well, it has a premium membership. You have a period of a time where you're going to have a special code for you to get and just have some forms. If you need some forms as well, you have, well, all the advantages of having that premium membership, okay? I will explain a little bit that later on or in another video, depends on how long this one takes me. But I just want to talk to you about All Things Fun and Fascinating. So it's a very great, it's a really good program for writing. This is how it looks. I'd like to see if my camera helps me here. The stories are not that long. It gives good instructions for the kid. As well, they are going to start by just creating an outline. I don't know if you guys can appreciate that. Let me see if I can control my light here a little bit. There. So they are going to start by creating an outline. It has instructions as well for them to create that outline and how you can guide them. And pretty much for the first few days, they are just going to create outlines. What I always suggest with IEW, and if you're using the theme books, is that you have and you take the time to just show them those symbols and abbreviations that they can use, because that will make at some point their time with the writing easy, because they don't have to write that much. If your kid is a reluctant writer, if your kid has some learning disabilities, learning differences, I think it's helpful if you start by just teaching them prior you start the theme books. How are those abbreviations and symbols? Because that will create that they don't have to write so much, correct? Because they can use those abbreviations and symbols for their outline, and it will be helpful as well when they are creating their outline. Okay, so here you can see those abbreviations and symbols. I start with this with my kid. I create like a special of a quiz with him, so I know if he's actually learning these symbols. He knows these ones already. There's more symbols that you can get with the teacher guide, and I've been using those as well, and with the teacher training. So I've been using all of that to just have him learn those symbols when he's creating his outline. Not only he used those symbols, he has created his own symbols, but the fact that you are using the symbols that are suggested by the program, I think is helpful, because those are symbols that are already determined to be able to be using it with the program. Is easy for them to learn them because it already has for what they are, for what those symbols are, that's what I am trying to explain, sorry. So example, BC means because, the W slash means with, W/O means without, the arrow, every time he writes an arrow, I know it means leads to or causes. So it's easy for us to understand, and it's easy for him to be able, once he does his outline or he's about to do his outline, it's easy for just him to make an arrow, and I know what he's trying to say, and he knows what he's saying. So when he's going to do the retelling of the story from his outline, it's easy for him to do it because he remembers what those symbols means, correct? So if you get your kid to actually learn the symbols from the program that they suggest in here, it's easy for them, if at some point they forget, to go back and refer to that list of symbols and what the definitions, what they mean, because it's already within the program, correct? Compared to when he uses his own symbols, sometimes he tends to forget for what he wrote that symbol. Usually he does remember, but he could forget, your kid could forget what was the symbol about, what that symbol meant to say for that outline, correct? For that story. So that's what I actually do with my kid first. I try to get him just to remember and be able to use those symbols so he can constantly remember when he's creating an outline, and when he is about to retell the story, it's easy for him, correct? And he don't have to be writing so much. Once he created his draft, I just correct everything, and then he will pass it clean, either on a notebook, depends on what I want from him. Usually for this year, I decide that he can do his draft in pencil, and then he will just pass it clean on our computer, correct? Before, at the beginning, when we were using people and places in our community, he dictate the story to me from his outline, and then I just pass it clean to our to his notebook, and he then will just read the story again to me from what I just did for him, which he was writing it on clean after he gave me all the adjustments that needed to be done with the story. I hope that makes sense. So that's how we've been using All Things Fun and Fascinating. I just have him usually read the instructions. He goes to the story. We discuss the story, correct? Then I have him do the outline. And from the outline, let's say the next day, he comes back and he's going to try to tell me the story from his outline at the beginning, because that's the only thing that he has to do. That's how we did it. Once it gets a little bit more complicated, and I will show you just now, that he needs to identify and get to look for more parts of the speech on his story, adding those parts. Then I just divide a little bit more. Usually would take 20 minutes with writing, and that's it. I just try to cut everything at 20 minutes because I don't want him frustrated. I don't want him overwhelmed, because that will create that he doesn't enjoy to do writing, correct? So we don't want that. Once he starts to needing to add more the use of quotation marks, the ly adverbs, maybe some strong verbs, looking for those banned words that he's not supposed to use, correct, for the story, I make sure that I start to divide things so it's easy for him and he don't find it so complicated. So here we have instructions. Once I go through the instructions, see, we have more instructions in here. So this will be one day. The next page will be the second day, including the story. We do the first part of the outline, and here we have number 1. Then the next day we do the next part, the outline, it will be number 2. That's how we are going to be moving with the program, and it's actually suggested on the teacher guide of the IEW, of the All Things Fun and Fascinating, to do it like that. It's just pretty much divided, and you are able to help your kid. Just because you're able to help your kid doesn't mean that you're cheating, that your kid is cheating. Andrew Padua actually motivates you to be able to help your kid as much as they need, because reality is that once your kid knows how to do it, they don't even want the help. They actually, and I have my kid actually telling me, no mama, I can just do it, I don't need your help. I appreciate it, but I don't need it. And I know already that is because he feels confident on what he's doing, correct? And that's what you want from your kid. So when you come to the teacher guide from the All Things Fun and Fascinating, you can see here that it has some instructions for the parent. And I don't know if the glare helps you see it, correct? And it's just an example here. It says, in a class, outline together at least the first source text. Let students choose the 3 or fewer words for each sentence. Then you write the words on the whiteboard. Encourage the use of simple symbols and abbreviations. And it's telling you to see the teacher note on page 3, correct? So we go to that page and we see that teacher note, and usually it's at the bottom of the page, correct? And it has as well a schedule for the how you can teach the lesson. And while it is more for a class, you can still get ideas from that. And it's stating students may then write their choice of words and abbreviations on their outline. Here's a simple outline for floating rocks using symbols and abbreviation. And it's just giving you an example here. I hope my camera with the light. There you go. Right there. Sorry about the glare. When the outline is finished, call on one student at a time to tell back the information from one of the lines in a complete sentence. If there is a class time left, allow students to outline the next source The Stinking Giant on their own, and it's just giving you more instructions. It says, note, lessons 1 and 2 may be combined by allowing students to choose 4 of the 6 source texts for outlining. Okay? And it's giving you ideas on how to use it. And even though the instructions is more for a class, I've been able to adjust this to my kids. So it's not something that you cannot adjust. Once you keep on going and they keep on working with their outline, it's starting to just giving you suggestions for games. It has as well for you to be able to quiz your kids' vocabulary, because they are going to be learning some vocabulary with this program as well, with this theme book. And it's giving you suggestions for games as well, so you can just be able to just review those vocabulary words in a very fun way. And I've been able to do those games as well with my kid. So let me just show you one of the games. So in here I wrote some of the words. Let me see if it shows because of the light. So this word is anticipate. And what I did, I wrote the words that he needs to get the definition. And on the other card, I wrote the definition just as it is on the program, correct? And I put the words on the table for, I think it was 30 seconds. And he needed to look at all the words. And after that, I piled them up, put the words on one side and the definitions on the other side. And I just have him try to see if he remembered those words. Then I put the cards again backwards with the word down and the definitions up. And he just grab a word and grab a definition, and he reads the definition and he sees if that definition matches with that word. If it's not, he needs to continue moving. If he gets the word, he will get, I think it's 2 points. If he doesn't know the definition for that word, then I will try, and then if I know it, I will get 3 points, and so forth. It'll be like that. Usually if you do that with the class, I think it'll be obviously more fun. But since we are 2, he was just doing this game with me, and naturally I didn't know those definitions, so it worked very well. And it suggests you in here how to use the point. Let me just see if I can show you guys, if I have it here. So here I just want to show you the instructions for the review games for the vocabulary that it has here. And I want to show you as well. Here are more instructions for games for the different lessons. We are here just practicing these vocabulary words that are included with the program, with the All Things Fun and Fascinating. And the people and places in our community was just exactly the same way, with some vocabulary words. And that is the reason why I decided not to purchase a vocabulary program, a separate vocabulary program, because I think it was enough with the ones that we are learning so far with All Things Fun and Fascinating, correct? And the ones that we have learned as well with people and places in our community. Some of the vocabulary puzzles and quizzes that we have in here look like these. And these are on your teacher guide for you to be able to show your kid and give to your kid. You can make copies and just being able to use it with your kid. And it has vocabulary answer keys. And the final test answers. Sorry. It comes as well, like I said, with some points that they can use, and I am trying to, sorry if I am going out of the camera, because I am trying to just get you guys to see if I can find those points. to show you guys. It has as well proofreading marks, symbols and abbreviations, and this is something that I always wanted to show you guys as well. Whoops. Right here, those symbols and abbreviations that I suggest you to have your kid learning, because I think it's very important and it's very helpful when they are starting with the programs, and it'll be helpful at the end. Here we have just compositions checklists. First quarter for you to be able to put those grades there if you want to grade your kid for the different lessons. A year at a glance. I think this is very helpful if you're just starting with the All Things Fun and Fascinating. I think just this year at a glance will be very helpful for you as a parent. It's just giving you instructions as well of understanding the schedule. And this is the parent file, giving you as well some suggestions for supplies. At home, you should have the following supplies, and it's telling you the 3-ring binder, as well as 3x5 note cards, vocabulary, grades, parent days. It's just giving you all that information. And I am trying to look for those points that I just talked to you about, guys, but I cannot see them in here. I don't know where I put them, but it's in here and I know I have them. So it's just stating some of the points that you can use with your kid. If it's 5 points, you can give them 5 points, 10 points, 20 points, depends obviously on how they do with their vocabulary, as well with their quizzes, correct? And it's a way for you to motivate your kid to be able to work with the program. We take just 20 minutes, and I always divide the load. So the first, and that is the suggestion of the program as well. Actually, let me just look one of the more that increase a little bit more on what they need to do. So I can give you an example. So here we have Damocles and the King. So it's just giving you instructions. It says review, let the students read their alliteration from their homework before they turn it in. Review the LY opener, the LY dress up. It is giving you as well some instructions for an activity here. It says this story is broken into sections to help students appreciate each element of the story. Sequence chart. The first 2 sections have rough styles checklist with the outlines so students can easily see what they need to include in that section. The checklist for the entire story is on page 52. For each section, to make brainstorming more fun, follow the teacher note on page 45 of the book. And it's just giving you some brainstorming ideas, as well as giving you vocabulary. It says go over the words for lesson 6. Keep reminding students that they earn extra credit for each word that they use and label correctly in their assignment. And those are the points that I told you guys that you can just use with your kids. You have 5 points, 10 points, depends on what is required for that or what you want to give them for that certain assignment, correct? Lesson 6A, sample outline, and that's the first thing that they have to do for that day. So that day will cover the lesson A, which is the outline, the story and the outline, as well as the brainstorming quality adjectives and the review of the vocabulary. So for the next day, they will be doing as well the vocabulary, but by just playing a game. It says vocabulary, find a card, which is the one that I just show you guys and explain to you is the game that I did with him as well. Then they have to do the second part of the outline section, outline section 2, sample outline, the conflict. Then they're going to have some work that they have to do and they will move to the next section of that same lesson, which will be the third part, which is the climax and resolutions. They have another game to do for vocabulary, and they will create the next outline, correct? So it's dividing that work, that story in parts in a way that they can understand, and it's very structured, which is what I am trying to say. And it doesn't take long. The most that will take it probably is 20 minutes, unless you have a very reluctant writer and you probably want to just maybe have your kid dictating to you, and you just write that for your kid, that outline for your kid, or just stretch a little bit more the time for them to create that outline. But it's been taking us around 20 minutes. That's for every time we divide the lesson. Usually it takes a little bit more when he's just passing it on clean, because he's just doing it on the computer, and he usually takes his time. But besides that, it takes us 20 minutes. And if you want me to be honest, it doesn't take that long for him to pass it on the computer, to type it on the computer. And it's easy for them because it goes to structure. It's just easy for him to understand. And he's been able to actually use the same method from IEW when we are about to do a story, maybe a narration from history. He just used the same method. He goes through trying to create his outline. He goes from trying to see if he can retell the story, how he's going to retell. It's just very beautiful to see that it's been worth it going through all of these, because he is not only using this within the program, but as well when he's about to write some creative story, he's able to just follow those same steps to have certain order. And I think that's very important when you are purchasing a program, that you can see that your kid is able to just continue with that he has learned with the rest of the programs that your kid is using, or that your kid is about to be using, or when they are doing their creative writing, they can just apply those same methods to be able to have a complete story. I hope this video is helpful. I hope it gives you a little bit more of an idea of how easy it can be to just use those theme books, and how you can implement those in your homeschool. If you have any other question, just leave it down in the comments. I will be explaining as well how we are using still the All Things Fun and Fascinating. This is not everything. I just gave you a little bit now, because if not, this video will take too long. It's already dark in here. And as well, I am going to share with you how we're using this different subjects that we are using currently in our homeschool, and how we've been doing as well. I would like to share all that information because I know is something that us moms are usually just looking for, how that program is been working with that mom, if it's something that we can just learn, that we can implement in our homeschool that will be helpful for our kids. I think it's very important, especially if you feel intimidated by just trying to use a program. And I know that especially because I speak two languages, it's very difficult for me. I feel a little bit hesitant, and that's how I felt with the All Things Fun and Fascinating. And if you go to my Instagram, you're going to see how I felt at the beginning. I felt a little bit overwhelmed because I was just afraid to even start by everything I heard, correct? But it's actually so easy once you grasp how the program works, and just by looking at these videos from Andrew Padua doing these lessons and just explaining to you, and being able to go back to those videos every time you feel like you're overwhelmed or you need your hand to be held, and being able to just know how to explain that to your kid is so helpful to have those videos every time I need them, and I can just watch them. I can just grab a cup of coffee, and then being able to just sit down and go through the videos again to refresh my mind and be able to keep helping my kid. As well, the fact that as a single mom, it's just so easy because I just have to have my DVD player, go to the kitchen. If I have to be cooking, I can just cook and watch the video at the same time. If I have to go to my work on my breaks, I can just eat my lunch and be able to watch those videos if I need a refreshing on what we need to be do for writing in order for me to be able to help my kid. So I hope this video is helpful. If it is, don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I will see you then. Bye bye.